Good afternoon, everybody. So, welcome. It is Friday. We made another week. God help all of us. And the ability to make another week in this heat in the UK is even more amazing. And as we wait for the amazing Sarah Parks to limp and join us, I say limp because obviously one wonders whether the heat is getting to all of us now. Hi, Andy. We'll just literally wait and see where we can find. Here we go. Let's see whether we can get Sarah on. And we could say this is working too well, she says, but giggling. There she is.
There she is.
Hey! Sorry, I'm trying to sort out my headphones.
You see, we're getting better at this.
Not really, I'm not that organised.
Yep.
Headphones not attached yet. Now they're all tangled. Okay.
Why is it, okay, that you untangle your headphones, you put them on, you take them off, and then whenever you pick them back up again, they're tangled? It's a bit like socks and washing machines. I don't get it. There's obviously somewhere someone who can tell us why you put socks in and only one comes out, and earphones never manage at the end of the day to be traumatized by the wearer wearing them.
No. And hairdryer cables. How is that possible?
Oh, I know.
I have two.
No, I know.
They live in a basket every time. They're completely tangled up, and they weren't when I put them in.
I know. Don't even go there. The wonders
now.
of life, the wonders of life.
Hey-ho.
But, amazing on Friday. It was a bit cooler this morning, but it seems to be hotting up again now.
Yeah, no, it's nice here. It's a good temperature.
Well, I must admit, working in this heat yesterday was just pushing it ever so slightly, treating hot, sweaty bodies.
Nice.
We won't go there. I'm certainly aware of which deodorants work and which deodorants don't work. Thank God I'm not a chiropodist. I think that's probably worse.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know either.
Right, organised.
She says. So, we were sort of like saying the topic of this week could be water levels.
Yes, keep hydrated.
Yeah, how do we keep hydrated in this heat? And actually, interestingly enough, because I think some people, always are a bit nervous about asking the silly questions. Mm-hmm. Actually, why are we drinking water? Why should we drink water? And I think at the end of the day, everyone tells us to drink water, but if we have an understanding of why we're drinking it, then people might have a better idea of why they should be drinking, and then therefore they will drink. So, guts need water, Sarah. Why?
That's a really good question. You're going to ask all the difficult ones today, aren't you? Well, your gut, your large intestine is where water is absorbed.
Yes, exactly.
So it's the water is pretty much the last thing to be absorbed into your system once you have digested.
That's right.
And water is absorbed, and then it's up to your kidneys to sort out how much you actually need. So pretty much most of it gets absorbed, and the kidneys will then excrete what you don't need, all the excess. Which is also needed in order to flush out all the toxins and everything that is produced just as a part of your minute-to-minute, day-to-day cellular processes. Your cells are always pumping out rubbish, and you've got to get rid of it. You don't want it to build up. So that's a really good reason to stay hydrated.
Yeah, and I think what people forget, talking about those sensitive things in life, that typically in hot weather, one of the biggest symptoms my patients will come in with, other than increased inflammation and that sort of jazz, is they're constipated. Because what's interesting is that obviously because of the water in the large intestine, if you haven't hydrated enough, it's very difficult to excrete too. So, the wonderful thing about the body is it is an excretable model. God, I ought to make T-shirts really. It's an excretable model. So people forget that they excrete through their skin, one of the biggest glands in the body, if you talk about it that way. And when we get too hot, how do we do that? We sweat. Why do we sweat? Because we cool our bodies down. So the whole point is that the vascular supply towards the skin obviously vasodilates, obviously to get rid of heat at the end of the day, and that's why we sweat. Those people with more hair, okay, not me, roaring with laughter, you can obviously trap that layer of sweat also and excrete it through that. So we obviously lose water an awful lot of ways that we don't even think. And we need water to maintain and function. But the other thing at the end of the day is, obviously you can drink too much water. So, that's when people, I mean, you have to drink an awful lot of water, guys, to do that.
Yes, yeah, 22 litres, isn't it?
It is. Or the issue is, interesting enough, is if you've got the athletes, the rarity is if they are consuming water too quickly. Okay, that's the other thing with it, is the kidneys can't quite keep up. And of course, in this weather, as we know, hydration actually, which you well know, it's not just about water, it's about your electrolyte balance. So, I've been looking it up, there's different formulas. I love Google, don't we just love it? Some people say it's 2 litres of water a day. Some people say it's literally a glass of water per hour. Some people say it depends on your weight. I would say, do you know what? One of the biggest things I always remember professors of mine saying, which could be a load of twat, but it works for me, is look at your own urine. Now, don't become obsessed with it, and don't look at anybody else's. That's just odd. But obviously, the more concentrated your urine is, the more yellow it is. So the more hydrated you are at the end of the day, it's going to be lighter in colour. And that's a really good way of knowing whether you're hydrated enough. So how do we keep hydrated in this weather, Sarah? What do you do?
I drink quite a lot of water, to be honest. I just feel better for it, or at least I notice on days that I don't drink water, if I'm out and about and I haven't got my bottle with me, or just busy. So I just make sure that I have quite a lot of water. Then I also eat a lot of salad and things anyway, and soup is my kind of main go-to food during the day, regardless of the season, actually. I need to remember that you do intake quite a lot of water with your food.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the kind of litre thing kind of falls a bit foul. You need to get to know your own body, don't you? Rather than aim for a number and beat yourself up when you don't achieve it. It's not really that simple.
And I think we were always taught, if you are thirsty, some people would say that actually that's your body crying out for water, and in fact that you shouldn't really wait for thirst at the end of the day. You should be hydrating regularly through the day. Obviously, if it's hot weather, you need to consume more because you're obviously losing more. But this is where it gets interesting. I think that now you were saying earlier, out of interest, because I think this is real and raw. Because you know your body better, Sarah, because you've spent time trying to understand it and caring about it. What are some of the symptoms you would say that if you haven't drunk enough water? Because obviously your body's telling you. How does it tell you when you haven't drunk enough water?
I think, well, the obvious ones, I get a really dry mouth. I don't know if that's a common thing, but dry mouth. If I start to get headachy, I'm not someone that genuinely suffers from headaches. I really don't. They're really very rare. But if I've got one of those really kind of low-level nagging headaches, that's usually a sign that I'm dehydrated. The other one for me is cramps. I suffer really badly from calf cramps. You know that minute, those few minutes in the morning when you're not awake and you're not asleep, and then you wake up to that, oh my God, it's going to cramp, and it doesn't matter what you do.
No.
They go for it. And I know usually that means that maybe not that over the kind of 2 or 3 days before, I haven't been drinking enough water.
Yeah. And I think you've just hit a really important thing. And hi, Julia, and hi, Graham, is that the thing is that your body is it's getting absolutely microsecond to microsecond information feedback all the time. Homeostasis is the ability to bring your body back to a state of balance. It's a wonderful Scrabble word, that one, guys. Go look it up. But homeostasis is something that we've all, at the end of the day, been taught going back to our biology level, back in school. But what's interesting is, at the end of the day, is that you will know if you didn't drink enough yesterday, almost by how you are today.
Yeah,
and cramps are a really good way for that. So, for example, last summer, again, if you're doing a lot of sport, and those of us that are bouncing around like Tigger at the moment, welcome to my world. Not quite sure the world's up to me at the moment, but is that what you find is if you haven't got that balance right with your water and your electrolytes, so that's sodium and potassium for everybody, what you can find is your body's cramping because it's not got enough of what it needs. So the other thing is, if it's a particularly hot day, some people, for example, will add half a banana.
Yeah.
That's great for potassium. And again, this is where it gets interesting, Sarah, and you can probably tell me a bit more about this with guts, is that we're all obsessed, aren't we, in the UK? Don't have salt, don't have salt, don't have salt. And don't get me wrong, I don't add salt to my cooking. I don't particularly. I sometimes like salt on chips because welcome to what I grew up with, I suppose. But we do need a bit of salt. And particularly in weather like this, you know, at the end of the day, you know, and again, Julia's right about that, that the wonderful thing of swollen ankles. Now, again, this can be a classic. Swollen ankles can become, well, ankles can swell if you get dehydrated or in hot weather. It can also link to medications you're on, guys. And that can be another thing. And again, cramps is another thing, can link to medications that you're on. So, I mean, how much water, out of interest, because it is a completely unique thing, Sarah. How much water do you try and drink a day?
I'm probably at about 2 litres-ish, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I aim for. I sometimes
Yeah.
fall a bit short, but that's what I aim for.
Yeah, but you're saying yourself, you drink a lot of, you know, foods at the end of the day that are what we would call wet foods from that point.
Yeah.
And again, you know, we were brought up many years ago to say coffee and tea don't count. Well, actually, interestingly,
They do.
they do.
Yeah, anything with water
So,
counts.
yep, they are. Now, of course, yes, you've got to be careful because obviously, you know, coffee is a diuretic, which makes you pee more. So again, that's another thing. So, you know, a lot of people would say that if you're prone to headaches, which can be a sign at the end of the day of dehydration, you know, make sure you're trying to drink, if you're going to drink coffee, drink water at the same time to try and get those hydration levels back up again. But yeah, no, it is interesting that, again, a lot of people would say, if you were looking at Chinese medicine, that, again, drinking cold water all the time, be careful, because, again, the cold water goes into your tummy and has to be warmed up. I've got to be honest, it's a very, 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 very long route to get into your intestines. So actually, let's be perfectly frank, it's warmed up by then. But again, in the hot weather, there are some interesting things that sound a bit daft. So what some people will say is actually having a cup of hot tea or hot coffee cools you down. Did you know that?
Yeah, certainly mint tea or herbal tea,
Yes.
mint tea or green tea, I find very refreshing.
Yes, because again, your body kickstarts your body into sweating and kickstarts your body into kicking out heat. Whereas again, drinking a lot of cold stuff sometimes makes your body go, oh, hang on a minute. So yeah, no, it sometimes in life these things can be a bit weird. But yes, and Julia's very right. Be careful about drinking tea because of the tannins. I mean, I didn't know this until our amazing naturopath came over, that the problem with builder's tea and tea at the end of the day is the tannins tend to aggravate soft tissues and tend to lead to pains and aches, and that can be another thing. And they're not good for you too, and not good for your teeth, funnily enough. I've got, you know, there is that. But yeah, no, at the end of the day, I also find that the more I'm training and exercising, the more I need to replace my fluids. And I do find when my body's working at its optimum at the end of the day, it's very good at telling me.
Yes, if you learn to listen to your body, and you do need to learn its ways, it makes a massive difference.
Yes. And I think that's something that, you know, being the body advocate, as I call myself these days, I say to patients, look, one of the big things that I always ask in a case history, or one of the big things is, has it changed? Because if that's been your normal for 50 bloody years, seriously, that's not the issue. It's you've had a dramatic change, because obviously, if you are very, very, very thirsty all the time, it can be another sign of other things. So again, keep an eye. If you're wanting more water than you're used to, other than it being a hot day and all that sort of jazz, then that can also be a sign of needing to get to GP and get things like your sugar levels sorted, just to make sure you're not, you know, haven't got an issue with sugar and you're becoming diabetic. So obviously, as we would never purport to know everything. If in doubt, go and ask a medical practitioner for all this stuff.
Really,
But
thank you for that.
well, no, they won't. But I do think at the end of the day, I say to my patients, if you be sensible, let's not bother people with simple things. For the love of goodness, use some common sense. But this is another reason why, Sarah, I always say, look, get on with your body, understand it and know it, because you only will then go to your GP if you have a significant change that worries you. You won't be going there every bloody day, because actually your body is the best advisor to you if you've got used to it, to live with it and understand it if there's something wrong. And I think that's where, you know, I mean, as Julia would say, a lot of her clients will come and ask her health advice. At the end of the day, you know, we've got people when we talk about nutritional cleansing that come and ask for us. You know, you can find information out in a number of different places. But no, you don't need to be bugging your GP as to how much water I drink. Because serious to God, I mean, I would want to kick you out, particularly in this hot weather, in hot clinics. But yes, we all have to do it with a smile on our face. And And that's why it's lovely to do, I think, to do these chats, Sarah, because I think sometimes it's nice to demystify science, give simple answers to simple questions, and set ourselves up for the weekend. And we all know in the hot weather, it doesn't stop you or preclude you to drinking alcohol. But again, it dehydrates you guys.
Yes,
Let's not be stupid.
It does.
And as I have finished my 30-day reboot, and there's a rumor that there's a certain person's birthday party coming up, I certainly will be tasting bubbles again, enjoying it, and making sure at the end of the day I hydrate.
Yes, perfect.
To make the most of the bubbles. But no, thank you, Sarah, as always.
Good
And I hope, hope that helps. And again, we'd say to everybody, look, put in the comments here, we'll share this, but put in the comments, are there any topics you guys would like to discuss? Obviously any topics, gut, health, rocks. And again, Sarah, you'll notice before we go that there's been even more stuff in the papers this week. One would almost imagine that there's a trend about mental health and guts.
Yeah.
And dementia again. And it's like, really? We could have written it.
Yeah, definitely. And ALS and MS.
Yes.
Yeah.
And MS, talking about being able to potentially one day, not now, treat multiple sclerosis. So, at the end of the day, multiple sclerosis, at the end of the day, we know that if we listen to our body and get on with it well, we will know when there's a problem, we can do something about it. And your body has its own medicine chest if you treat it with respect, feed it well, and perhaps add in some of those simple little things we were talking about.
Yeah.
And you never know. And never know. At the end of this weekend, we'll probably need another detox. But on that note, yes, exactly. May you all have an amazing weekend. Hydrate, stay safe, and look after yourselves. And don't forget things like sun cream and hats. Boring, boring, boring. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.